Hey friends, this is me Vishwas and I'm the host of the series where I invite Devtronians to teach you the potential of Devtron in your production. And also, not just that, we also help you in adopting Kubernetes the right way. And today I'm with Prakash, who is one of the Kubernetes solutions architects at Devtron, and he is going to give you a lot of insights about GitOps as a practice and as a principle. And it's an best of the best series that we are doing and where we are putting out the potential of Devtron out there. So I hope you enjoyed the series. And so thank you so much, Prakash, for being on the show. Means a lot.
Thank you, Vishwas, for having me.
Sure. Let's start with the question that everybody asks. What is the GitOps ecosystem today? Because there is always a challenge when we enter the world of DevOps. And GitOps is a new jargon out there. So what is GitOps ecosystem today?
Okay, so I'll first start with a quick introduction. What exactly is GitOps? If I talk in the layman terms, what GitOps means is just dump everything into your Git, right? So as simple as that. So be it configuration, be it infrastructure settings, be it your deployment related configurations, just dump everything first into Git, and then from there on, do your deployments, do your configuration managements, and stuff like that. So GitOps, by definition, is like a paradigm that empowers the developers, the DevOps people, the infrastructure guys to drive whatever operations that they want to do using Git as the single source of truth. Right, so that is what GitOps is today. So talking about the current ecosystem around GitOps, I think you are definitely right there that GitOps is definitely a buzz term right now in DevOps ecosystem. So right now we have so there's a one common misconception about GitOps, so which is that it can only be used with Kubernetes. So no, that is not the case. So GitOps is not restricted to only Kubernetes. You can implement it anywhere. So it's not that you need to first migrate your applications to Kubernetes to implement GitOps in within your organization. So that's a very common misconception that generally people have. So apart from that, if I talk about what is the current ecosystem around, so GitOps, so which I can see that there are a lot of tools in Kubernetes ecosystem uh, for which lets you implement GitOps, which work on top of GitOps, and that's because when the Kubernetes ecosystem started developing, the GitOps was there, right? So the ecosystem around the tools and ecosystem around the Kubernetes actually adopted it pretty well because these configuration, these things that were being managed through other conventional ways before that or other conventional tools made a central point. It converged at a central point, and that was the Git thing. And if I talk about right now, I can see that most of the Git providers have already started implementing GitOps for various of the things, be it deployments, be it your configuration management, be it your infrastructure provisioning using GitOps. So they have already started doing that, be it GitLab, GitHub, so they are all are doing that, and there are plenty other tools around Kubernetes ecosystem which are also adopting GitOps as a basic principle to drive through everything that they do. So yes, GitOps is definitely a buzzword right now.
Sure. I think the challenge is always about the right strategies that has to be put in. But right strategies doesn't mean that you are out of all the challenges that were there in the software development lifecycle. It still exists. So there's always a challenge when it comes to GitOps as an adoption. There is always a top 5 questions that you need to ask, or top 6 questions that you need to ask before you enter GitOps. So what is it? What are the challenges that an engineer can face today when he enters the world of GitOps, or when he enters the world of DevOps, which is moving towards the GitOps practices?
Okay, so I would say that okay, the first the first challenge that any engineer who is trying to implement GitOps in their organization would be the configurations to drive GitOps, right? So there are multiple things that you can drive through GitOps. You will have to pick one by one some of those things and then drive it through GitOps. So the first thing that you can probably start with GitOps is your infrastructure provisioning through GitOps. So right now there are tools which help you adopt GitOps in multiple steps of your SDLC. So one such tool is like, of course, Devtron helps you implement GitOps for your seamless deployments, continuous deployments on top of Kubernetes. If you want to do that, Devtron in a way helps you do that. So there are other tools as well which work on top of GitOps principle to let you provision the infrastructure as well. Then there are tools that also let you put your secrets in an encrypted way into your GitOps system. So you will have to start somewhere, and the first problem definitely is building those configurations that helps you adopt GitOps into your organization. So the first, I would say, thing or the barrier in when for any engineer getting into GitOps ecosystem is to configure the GitOps thing. Another thing would be secret management is pretty difficult. So, if I talk about Kubernetes, if you want to go ahead and store your plain secrets in Kubernetes, so Kubernetes secrets are not very secure. First of all, the plain secrets are not very secure in Kubernetes. So there are mechanisms wherein you can either implement something like a HashiCorp Vault or a external secret manager, or you can use any of the secret managers of your cloud provider to get those secrets into your clusters and use them. Or you can also use something called something like a Bitnami sealed secret, which helps you kind of encrypt the secrets and then commit it to the Git. And from there on, once it syncs back into the cluster, it gets decrypted using a key. Right, so those sort of things can also be implemented for secret management. Out of the box, if you do with the plain secret, it's not going to be secure. So secret management configuration you'll have to do if you want to have a secure infrastructure over there. Another thing is, so recently we have seen too many outages in GitHub, GitLab. But what GitOps does is it increases your dependencies on such Git providers such as GitHub or GitLab, right? So once these providers have some sort of outages, you cannot send your deployments, right? So that is something that is becoming very critical for many organizations. So many organizations have even started using multiple Git providers for their deployment systems so that they can quickly switch to another Git provider if there is a outage in one of the providers. So that is also one thing. So because with GitOps into picture, we have continuously increased our dependencies on these Git providers. So I think those are some of the challenges that we need to resolve or at least think through before putting GitOps into an organization.
Sure, I think that's an absolute great set of insights that we can get for starting our GitOps journey. And I think it's time for us to go through the demo where Devtron is in action and Devtron shows how easy it is to deploy anything using GitOps principle and how it also solves the challenges that you told. And over to you, Prakash. The stage is yours. I think the demo will be awesome.
Thank you. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, so we can get started now. So that's the Devtron console. To implement our GitOps, you'll have to first enable the Argo CD integration from the Stack Manager if it is not already done. So you can easily do that. If it is disabled, you can just click on this and enable this integration, and that will install the Argo CD stack and enable the GitOps modules in your Devtron stack. So once you have done that, you will find something in your global configurations called GitOps configurations over here. Right, so that's where you can put in your credentials for configuring your GitOps. So these are the credentials that the Devtron system you will be using to create the repositories as you create applications on top of Devtron. So you just need to provide these configurations over here, and the rest things will be done in the background by the Devtron system itself. So Devtron helps you implement GitOps for the deployments by easing the configurations for you, so that you do not have to do anything, any of the plumbing work that is required to enable seamless deployments using GitOps principles. So you just feed the Devtron console with these credentials, and it will do the automatically do everything in the background for you. So these are the credentials that you need to provide. If you're using GitHub, you need to provide a Git host over here. Then you can provide the organization name. I would so I would recommend that you use a separate organization from what you are using to store your code. So generally, what organizations do is they have a dedicated organization only for GitOps purposes, wherein there is nothing put in manually. Everything is just committed using the Devtron system itself. So I would recommend that you create a separate organization on GitHub for your GitOps, and then you can provide the credentials over here. Right? Once these configurations are validated and saved, what you can do is you can straight away go ahead and create a new application. To create a new application, I can just so I can just click on create, click on custom application. I can give it a name. So let's say GitOps demo. I can clone any of the existing applications. So let me just clone the demo application that I have. I can give it a project. Then I can give it a owner, a push, and then clone the application. Sorry, it created multiple times. Okay, so this is the application got created. If I see, I should have multiple build pipelines over here. Right, so these are the pipelines that were already created in the application through which I cloned it. So I can just click on one of these and just trigger a build so that we are able to deploy. So I'll just have to wait for some time so that this will get triggered. Meanwhile, I can just show it to you into your in one of the applications, right? So let's say that I want to send a deployment in this one, right? So whenever you create a pipeline, it automatically creates an Argo CD application object in the background. You do not have to do any of those plumbing in the background. So let's say that I want to add a deployment pipeline over here. So stage Devtron demo. Let's say I want to do that in stage. It is already there, Devtron QA. Right, so let's say that I want to create a pipeline over here. I just created a pipeline. It shows me not okay. It already has a pipeline over here. Let me see if I can create on Devtron demo is already there, QA is already there, playground. Let me just delete this one. And let me just delete this one as well. Let's just create a playground. Okay. So I want to create a deployment pipeline, which is deploying to the namespace playground dev. I'll just create this, and it will automatically create all the stuff that is required in the background, right? So let's say that I want to go ahead and deploy on this particular pipeline. I'll just quickly go ahead, click on deploy. You see that it has initiated the deployment, right? And if I check the details, I should be able to see what are the steps that it did, right? So I can see over here that deployment initiated by me, and then there was a push manifest that was an event that was there. So it has pushed all the manifest to the Git first, and then from there on, it has kubectl applied to your Kubernetes cluster. And if I go back to, let's say, Git to check that, if that has really happened. So I'll just quickly go to Git. Right. And check, okay, the application name was demo application. Demo application. Demo. Wait. Demo application, Devtron demo. Yeah, so this one is it. So Devtron automatically creates these repositories as soon as you like create any application. So it already has created. So I can see that there was a commit done 1 minute before, and that was for one of those environments. So right, this one is the commit which was done. You can see that it was done 1 minute before, right? So it has committed all the configurations in a JSON format over here. So this can be your YAMLs as well, right? So since we have to read it only through the system, that's why we put it in JSON format. But if people are editing these configurations manually, they prefer putting it into YAML format as well. So all these configurations are committed right over here. And from these configurations, it is getting synced into your target cluster. So I can see that I have this final propagate manifest to the Kubernetes resource. So I can see that it has already applied those configurations into my target cluster. Now it is waiting for the application to get healthy. So it has provisioned all the resources, including ingresses, services, your pods, right? So I can check the logs of these pods as well, right from over here. And if I go to my other application that I just created, this one, you can see that there is, so the deployment has automatically happened because this was an automatic deployment pipeline, right? So if I go back to see if I have got this GitOps demo as well on this Git, I can see that it should be GitOps, Devtron GitOps demo. So this one just got created. And under this one, if I see, I have 3 deployments. So I have this deployment that has just happened in first environment, and then in this 5th environment. So I can see all the configurations of those deployments over here. So I didn't do any creation of the repository. I didn't do any of the plumbing work. I just created an application on Devtron, and it automatically created everything in the background, if you can see. And so that's how Devtron helps you adopt GitOps for your continuous deployments. So that's about it.
Sure. I think that's a great set of insights that you just gave because plumbing the configurations out there, making sure that every Kubernetes cluster doesn't have uncompromised tokens or else the secrets have been kept secret. I think that's the worst nightmare for any developer today. Like probably they might push out a secret out there for the world. I think this was such a great demo because DevOps just was made simpler. I think thank you so much, Prakash, for such a nice demo. I think this will obviously be a starting point for other GitOps adoption as well. I think this is going to be the reference video for all the GitOps video that we do. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you, Vishwas, for having me as well. Yeah.